he said we're good after this. He may have just been trying to brush me off. I hope not, because they're going to get here less than a week from now. Look at this. I just discovered this today.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into some way to tether myself.
Welcome back to the Yoast Den, everyone. As many of you know, we are getting our attic room, our bonus room up here in the attic, spray foamed, because it's pretty much the only way that we can make this room livable in the summer months. The rafters are too shallow to accommodate the super thick batting it would require to keep this room conditioned in the summer months. This did have some batting in it before, really flimsy stuff. It wasn't up to the task for the summer months. It would typically get well above 110 or 115 degrees up here in this room. So it's a place that we've been using as an office or even as a spare bedroom. It's just uninhabitable for like 3 or 4 months out of the year. So we decided to pull the trigger and spray foam it with closed cell spray foam. We waffled back and forth. There's pros and cons, but we're going to do it. And the day that we have set is a week away. It's, I think, April 4th is the actual date when they're going to come and spray foam. So there's some last minute things I need to do, but some of those last minute things are pretty heavy framing jobs that I need to do. And the first one was making sure that the depth of the rafters are consistent across the plane of the roof. And so you might be asking, why does that matter? Well, eventually, once we get the closed cell spray foam on, we're probably going to be putting something like tongue and groove up here on these rafters. And in order to make sure that the rafter studs, I'm able to pin the tongue and groove in every, I don't think these are 16 on center. I think these are closer to 20 something on center. In order to actually pin them on and not have the screws float, I need to make sure that they're level, which they're not currently. There's the original rafters here, every other one, and then in between they added some new 2x4s after the fact, I think just as a place to pin the metal roof screws. I think that's why they're there. So these added 2x4s aren't as deep. Again, you can see the plane isn't flush. So what I need to do is find a way to make them flush. So when I do install the tongue and groove, I'll have a place to pin the tongue and groove boards every, 20 inches or so, whatever it is. So Jim actually told us of a good method to find out which rafters were the ones that need furring out. And actually turned it out, we used the string method that he told us about, and it actually turned out to be pretty simple. It's these ones. These ones need to be furred out. And so Dad and I were talking yesterday, and he actually came up with a really good idea, and that is to, in order to find the exact amount of furring that I need, and that is to put up a flat board one down there, one up here, and then slide a 2x4 in, and you'll be able to, this 2x4 will drop down to this, and then you screw it in wherever it drops down to, and then it will be equal, which it'll make sense once I do it, and I'll show you the process, but I just want to show you how big the gap is so you get a sense of what I'm talking about. So let me hold this up. And this board is just a holder. So you see that gap right there? That's what I need to compensate for with the sistered on 2x4. The 2x4 is going to drop into there, and then I just screw it on the entire length. It's interesting because this side needs it, whereas this side does not. Let me show you. It's hard to do this with one hand, one crippled hand. As you can see, the the tolerances are a lot closer, I'll be able to screw in the boards, and it runs that way across this whole side of the roof for whatever reason. So, okay, less work for me. The other thing that I need to do is there's big open gaps here that are close to 40 inches apart. And so obviously we'll need rafter beams, studs, whatever you want to call them, in between as a place to screw in the tongue and groove, because you don't want the tongue and groove just floating for all this space, especially because it's hanging down. Gravity's going to warp it. I'll need one here. I'll need one up there. I'll need one there. I'll need one there and there. So I got some 2x6s that I'm going to rip down to maybe 4 inches. I haven't quite figured out what it's going to look like putting them up. Probably harder than I'm imagining, but fingers crossed that won't be the case. So getting those boards sistered up, which should be easy, and then putting in new rafters in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. I think I can do this in one day. Fingers crossed. You get to watch me and see if I make it happen. First things first, get this wasp. The wasps have come out in droves the past 2 days. Dad and I were joking that it's like a baseball team, the Wasps. It's the season opener for the Wasps. Take a look. Simple solution. The gap is now accounted for across this whole rafter beam. It doesn't have to look pretty, and it's not offering any, it's not meant to offer any structural support. It's merely a solid place to pin my tongue and groove when we get there. I'll thank myself when we do get there. I'm just going to continue on down the line. I think I've got maybe 3 or 4 more left of these that I need to do. And then I'm going to build some new rafters. Okay, guys, well, I started the day thinking this would be an easy project, but I think you know how that story always invariably goes. When I think something's going to be easy and take 2 hours, it's going to be very difficult and it's going to take 4 or 5 hours. And this absolutely fit into the latter category. Now, I'm done with what I set out to do today, and I'm going to call it after this and go outside and do outside things. But this portion was actually really easy. The trick that Dad thought of, where you just kind of drop these into place, really paid off. And look at that. You can see the gap of, I don't know, half an inch that this covers. So when I do go in to pin in the tongue and groove, after the foam has been added, pop it in right there. It's very easy. I mean, look how deep this gap was. It's almost an inch. I'm really glad that Jim reminded us that it was important. Now, I also added in the new rafters, and that's when things got hairy. I had to use my little fence-off method to keep this up while I pin them in. You'll note that I used these hurricane ties to fasten this to the roof, and you might be asking yourself, well, how did you not puncture the metal roof on the other side? And that is something I thought about beforehand. I ended up using these one inch screws to fasten it into place. Now, I'm not too concerned about so first of all, these new rafter boards that I put up, they're not structural. They're not meant to support the roof. All they are is just a place to pin in my tongue and groove once I go across. And now I've got the span from like here to here, which was like 40 inches. I've got a spot right here that lines up, and I can pin in the tongue and groove right there. So it's not structural. It's just meant for a pin spot. But this, I'm not too concerned about. Those aren't going to be the only thing holding in this into place. Once the spray foam is on, the spray foam is actually going to provide a lot of structural support as well. And the spray foam is going to help keep this up. There's one thing I neglected to think about, and that's where this meets here. You'll notice that this is a pretty steep overhang, so I'm probably going to need to go back, pull this thing out, and do an angle cut here just to account for that drop off. But all the other new rafter boards that I put in are going to do great. This one required a little bit of tinkering. I think I had my camera off when I put this one on. Because this didn't have these boards right here, it just has these purlins and then it goes straight to the metal roof behind. I had to get kind of tricky. So I took these 1x1s and I took 2-inch screws and I screwed these backer boards, these pin boards to the purlins with 2-inch screws right at the ridge points. So I can go back and feel the tip of that screw. It doesn't penetrate the roof. Same thing over here. I can feel the tip of it. It goes into this ridge right here. And I ended up making 2 of those and then ripping a new kind of mini rafter board that meets up with these. So this one, while the other rafter boards I ripped to be 4 inches, a true 4 inches, this was like 2.5 or something like that. It matches up with the rest of the rafters, but it has this little safety measure of the additional rib that I put in to keep that from going in. And then, of course, same thing, same story over here. It was funny when I was doing this, there was the wasp that's been up here has been just doing flybys like a helicopter, just back and forth. I got to the point where I didn't even step out of the way. I just did my thing and he zoomed past me. You note that these butt up against each other. That's fine. I don't care. I could have mitered them out and made them meet in the middle like they did here. But again, this isn't structural. This is just a pin spot and no one's going to see it. It's not aesthetic either. Once the tongue and groove covers it, the zenith point of those two boards where they meet is the exact same as that. So same thing over here, same story. I'm fine with it. It's ugly, but it's going to be covered up. It does what I need it to do. There is this floater down here. And I think I might put another 2x4 here. I'm not sure just yet. The tongue and groove I get should be wide enough to have a point where I can pin it in there. We'll see. It's going to be funky when we get to this spot anyways. I'm still not sure how I'm going to deal with that corner. Still have a few things to do, but the majority of the big stuff up here is done. The new rafters, sistered up furring strips for my tongue and groove assembly once it happens. These big gaps covered up. There might be a few other things I'm missing. I'm not sure. I did a video walkthrough for the insulation company, the guy that we're working with. He said we're good after this. He may have just been trying to brush me off. I hope not, because they're going to get here less than a week from now. So there's still going to be little cleanup things I need to do, but boy, it feels good to get the bulk of this done and have this ready to go. My life's going to be a lot easier once the actual spray foam is up. and I'm ready to install the tongue and groove. So good for me. So you guys may have noticed in the background, Dad's putting a roof on the shed, on the soon-to-be bunkhouse, eventually bunkhouse.
Yes.
What? I see you've laid out some ribs.
Right. Yeah. So one method of putting a metal roof on an existing roof is to work it this way, where you've got some purlins working their way horizontally, and that gives a place for all of the screws to be pinned in.
It looks good. So you've already got this other side down. Looks great.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm not, just for your viewers' sake, I'm not putting the ridge cap on.
You're just testing it out.
Yeah, I'm just checking some measurements.
To avoid having to make
some additional cuts on the length of the panels, because these over here, for whatever reason, it's almost as though that side is a little bit shorter. I don't know how that worked out. So the panels were going to be too long. You know, you can have an overhang, but you don't want too much of an overhang. I've got 2.5 inches on that side. I'm not comfortable with more than that, just because of wind.
What do you think? You're going to get away with it?
I think on this side I will. The length of the panel, this one hasn't been cut. It's just sitting there loose right now.
So these purlins, it seems like that might have been somewhat challenging finding the right spot.
Right.
To get them.
Yeah, finding where the rafter joist, whatever you want to call it, was located took a little bit of work to do.
So this side is going to be easier, well, maybe a little less frightening, because this side is quite a bit higher.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into some way to tether myself.
Yeah.
In the event of over here, I don't know. It still would not be good, obviously, but it's
not a huge drop.
8 feet or something.
But especially on the back side of that, that's a good 15. It's enough to do some damage.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll let you get back to your project. I'm going to get back to mine. It's looking good. So a couple of viewers have commented that we've been a little bit more laissez-faire in terms of the chickens that get out of the net, the fencing. There's probably 5 or 6 chickens that regularly escape the confines of the Premier One fencing here and just walk around the homestead. I'll see them all the way down our driveway. I'll see them in my parents' house over here. I'll see them in the barn. And that's, honestly, it's kind of cool. I've been liking it. It's very pastoral to walk out and there's a chicken at your feet right when you walk out the door first thing in the morning. But there's going to be some issues. The very first one that you very well might think of is, there's one right there. See? Look, it's an example. We've been seeing a lot of that lately. So problems. The first one that you might very well bring up is the garden. Once we start garden season, we've got very tender young veggies growing. Oh, there's another one right there. Hey, this chicken serves as a case in point for what I'm going to talk about. Hi, chicken. There's a chicken in one of these garden beds. Once we get the tender young leaves sprouting up, the tender young veggies sprouting up, the chickens are going to pick at them. And especially when we actually start getting veggies in and berries in, the chickens are going to come and just start pecking away at them. Can you blame them? They're delicious. So we got to do something. Maybe we got to clip wings. The problem is I don't think that'll work, because these smaller black chickens, they tend to be the ones that go out of the fence the most. They can fit through the fencing. And there's no way I'm buying how many hundreds of feet of fence is this? There's no way I'm buying all new fence for this. So clipping the wings won't work because they can get through the fence. Does that mean we have to build a fence around the garden or put up maybe tighter fence around the garden? I'm not sure. I still haven't thought this through. Maybe put some netting around each individual plant as it comes up. I don't know. My fingers are crossed that maybe they just won't be interested in the veggies. But something tells me that won't be the case. What's the second issue that we've run into? Well, the surprise egg piles. So I've been finding eggs laid everywhere around our homestead. I've been finding them on our porch. I've been finding them down our driveway. I've been finding them in the garden shed. And of course, I've been finding them in the barn too. And check this out. Henry is playing with the horn on the car. Look at this. I just discovered this today. How many eggs is that? I don't know. Well over a dozen. And how old do you think there are? So maybe there's 3 chickens laying in here. This is maybe 4 days worth of eggs. I don't know. They were just laying there and I had no idea about them. And so I constantly need to be vigilant and on the lookout for new egg hideouts. And this is one of them, apparently. They like hopping in here and going in here and laying in there. So I'll continue my search for eggs every day and include this on the list. But that's something you got to be aware of when you have free-range chickens, is the secret egg piles. I found one up in the hayloft the other day. So they're getting up to the hayloft and laying them up there. 15 eggs. And it's not like I don't have actual laying boxes for the chickens and actual egg nesting boxes. I've got plenty of those. And most of the chickens lay in them. It's just these free-range chickens that are flouting the rules. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and us today. More stuff done. We get stuff done every week, and that's a good feeling. So until we see you again next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.